Hi there. Today we'll be talking about how the implementation of streaming services has negatively affected the amount of money that musicians make and how this affects the music being made today. This is prepared and presented by Colin. So the first part of this discussion will be answering the question, has streaming services such as Spotify, Apple Music, and YouTube decreased the amount of money that artists make? So along with this presentation, I'm also going to be submitting an Excel file, which is going to be going over the numbers more in detail. You are welcome to look at that as well. A bit about the reason why I chose this. I'm an accounting major, so I thought that talking a bit about the money side of the music industry would really relate to my degree. This is also great because in my job that I have lined up, I'm going to be doing a lot of analysis and speaking, presenting these analyses to a group, so this works out well. So we're going to start with the revenue given to artists through streaming services. There is 3 streaming and viewing services that I looked at for this analysis. So the first one is Spotify, and according to BusinessInsider.com and various other sources I looked at, the average amount of money that is attributed to an artist per stream on Spotify is $0.004, so about a bit less than half a cent per stream. Apple Music, it is 1/2 a cent per stream, and YouTube about 1/3 cent per stream or per view. So this isn't very much. When you average this all out, about 1 million streams on these streaming services will result in the artist getting about $4,000 in revenue that will be directly attributed to them. So very, very small amount compared to the number of streams it is, but this is the case as of 2021. Now that we talked about revenue coming from streaming services, we're going to look at revenue given to artists through album sales. So if you look on the picture on the right, you'll see the average price of an album from 1974 to 2014 adjusted to US dollars in 2015 when this study came out. And the average price of this is about $18.19. The average revenue paid to an artist per album sale, looking at various sources about this. The source that I got listed is from ASCAP, but they were all relatively the same amount, listing between 10% and 25% of the album sale is directly given to the artist. So I took the average of this and took it 17.5. So if an artist sells an album for $18.20, the average revenue per album sale that they are getting is about $3.18. So this isn't very much again, however it is a considerable amount more than streaming, which is less than 1/2 a cent per stream. But one thing to keep in mind is that usually you only buy an album sale once compared to a streaming service where you were streaming multiple songs off that album multiple times. So you do have to keep that in count. So now that we have a bit of a background about the difference in revenue that an artist gets from streaming compared to album sale, we're going to apply this to real-world examples to really get a good idea about it. So what I decided to do was do the revenue made from the top 5 best-selling albums of all time. We're going to compare the revenue made from album sales compared to the revenue made from streaming services. So the reason that I chose the top 5 best albums of all time, one, there's a lot of data on it, so it's easier to obtain, but these all came out before streaming services were a thing. So they got the full implementation of revenue being made from album sales. And then when streaming services came into effect, they were still very popular, still are popular to this day, and have billions of streams across different streaming platforms. So it's a great way to compare. So the first one we're looking at is the top-selling album of all time, Michael Jackson's Thriller. The total album sales, according to alltopeverything.com, As of 2021, across the world, 67 million album sales. Using the numbers that we previously talked about, again, you can look at the Excel file as well, really breaking it down. The revenue attributed to the artists from these album sales is about $213 million. Across the 3 streaming platforms, Spotify, YouTube, and Apple Music, the total streams from all the individual songs for the album across all 3 streaming services is 6.6 billion streams as of December 6th, 2021. So this results in a streaming revenue attributed to the artist of about $24 million. So this is considerably less than the album sales revenue. Looking at number 2, we got AC/DC's Back in Black, total album sales of $51 million, resulting in about $163 million to the artist. Across all the platforms, well, the top 3 largest platforms, the total streams from all the songs on this album, so 4.8 billion streams, resulting in about $18 million for the artist. So again, considerably amount less. You're going to notice this. Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon, total album sales of $46 million, resulting in $147 million in revenue attributed to the artist. Total streams of 2.2 billion, resulting in about $8.8 million attributed to the artist. Whitney Houston, The Bodyguard, total album sales of $45 million, resulting in $144 million to the artist. Total streams, 3.5 billion, resulting in about $12 million to the artist. Michael Jackson's Bad, total album sales $44 million, resulting in $141 million to the artist. Total streams $4.8 billion, resulting in $17 million to the artist. So, summarizing this, the results: the average album sales revenue of the 5 albums that will be attributed to the artist is about $162 million. The average streaming revenue from the 5 albums is about $16 million. So, throughout this analysis, album sales results in a huge amount more in revenue, resulting in about 10 times more revenue than streaming services. So, this is extremely high. One thing to note, I only took the top 3 biggest streaming services. The numbers can definitely vary from the information you look at. There's also different streaming services out there, but that isn't going to bump it up too much since Apple Music, YouTube, and Spotify definitely have a large market share of the streaming services. So the number could be a bit higher for streaming services, but it is definitely nowhere near the amount of money that artists made off of album sales in the past. So streaming services definitely have a negative impact on artists' revenue. That's a con of it. A little pro that I mentioned here. In the past, pirating has been a huge issue, especially with album sales over the past 2 decades. So streaming services kind of eliminated that in a way, to the point where you're still getting a bit of money from the streaming. It's better than none at all. So now that we know that streaming services have a negative impact on the amount of money that artists make compared to album sales in the past, how do these results affect how and what music is made today? You know that artists make less money. So I have a couple of different points here. Point 1, the decrease in revenue hurts new and smaller artists the most. It still hurts larger artists. However, larger artists they don't want to take the hit in revenue, but they can. They can still get by just fine. But new and smaller artists have less money to work with to create music. The lack of revenue pushes many potential artists away from fully committing to creating their music. So some of these newer artists or smaller artists that are primarily getting money off streaming services might not be as much as they expected. They might have to get a second job just to get by. They have less money to invest in actually making quality music. They might have less time because they're working a different job. And also, this could stop plenty of music, great music, from ever being created, just from the fact that people could really be turned off, seeing that there's not too much money into it. They want to live a comfortable life, etc. So that's definitely an impact on how and what music is definitely being made. Second point here is it pressures the artist to make revenue from other streams. So the decrease in revenue pressures artists to make money from things such as tours. However, that was pretty much completely eradicated over the last 2 years, so hurt artists even more, especially smaller artists. Things like merchandise, maybe they'll have to offer exclusive content on YouTube or on their personal page, maybe behind the scenes interviews, certain takes of songs, etc. Maybe they can monetize it by, I don't know, people have to subscribe to their website to get this exclusive content. And also things like sponsorships. So since artists are making less money, they have to figure out how to get by and really look into other streams, which are out there. So my third point is the degenerification through playlists that streaming services are offering. So I've definitely noticed this in the past. Streaming services are offering mood playlists, which breaks away from any genre of music. This has definitely been pushed a lot on my Spotify, and I've been using it as well, where Spotify is trying to get a bit away from genre of music, getting people to explore multiple different music, different fields of music without really looking into genre. I know we were talking about it in class before. You don't really want to genre things in music. And this is the case that's being pushed by Spotify. So, for example, this Good Vibes playlist. This includes Beyonce, the Beatles, Outkast, Queen. So if you were to genre them, Beyonce might be more pop music, the Beatles maybe more, I don't want to say older pop, classic pop, older rock, Outkast more hip hop or rap, Queen's had a genre as well. But they're really getting away from genre music and encourages artists to make unique music that does not have to fall into a certain genre. So possibly in the past, album sales, they were told by their producers, if you want to really get on the radio, push your album sales, you're going to have to make this type of country music song. But now artists, because of things like this that Spotify is offering, they can really look into creating their own music that doesn't have to be a specific genre. So that's one positive thing that has to come out of streaming services. They might be making less money, but they do get a bit more freedom to make the music that they do want to make. This leads into my fourth point, which is algorithms' effects on songs being made. So streaming algorithms lead listeners to new music. I can't say the amount of times that I've gone down rabbit holes of looking up a song on Spotify or YouTube to then either Up Next comes on or I get cued to a random artist and I give the artist a try and I really get to listen to their music and discover new music. It's definitely a way that I have a lot of music on my phone. So streaming algorithms lead listeners to new music. One big thing about this is that listeners don't have to commit to buying new artists' albums. In the past, unless you heard it on the radio, if you wanted to listen to a new artist, you might have to go and buy an album and really spend that money. But now you're already paying the monthly fee for the streaming service, so why not explore and look at new artists? So this helps consumers find new artists and new music, and it also helps all artists gain new listeners. The algorithms likely push larger artists first, getting them more exposure, but also smaller artists and newer artists that probably wouldn't reach certain listeners without a streaming service now have this opportunity thanks to the algorithms on these streaming services. So in conclusion, streaming services have considerably reduced the revenue artists make off their music, leading to new and smaller artists struggling to release new music. artists have to increasingly make money through other sources of revenue to get by, and streaming services increase the amount of exposure artists can get. So they're getting less money from traditional album sales or streaming services, but they're getting more exposure and more popularity and reaching more people than they would have before, leading to an increased fan base and gains in revenue from other sources. So although you're getting less money from streaming services compared to album sales in the past, you could be getting more exposure and using that exposure to make revenue in other places if you want to do that. So that is my presentation for today. Thank you very much. Thank you for listening.